Hi, and welcome to another Average Joe Hockey Report. In this video, since we've already gone over the five teams that have the biggest mess to clean up, and it's going to take them a while for them to rebuild, we're going to go over the five teams now that are going to get out of the basement and one day make the playoffs. At number five, the Anaheim Ducks. While it's still going to take them a while for them to get out of the basement, they're going in the right direction, I think. As it is, Maxime Comtois, who's still very young, at 20 at 22 years old, led the team in points. Now, not a crazy amount of points, but still. So, with with Comtois and and Sam Steele, maybe Max Jones, maybe Troy Terry, and you still got veterans like Cam Fowler, Hampus Lindholm, and John Gibson in net. So they still have a decent core to go with at the moment. But then you got prospects like Trevor Zegras and Jamie Drysdale and Mason McTavish. McTavish, hold on a second. Where is? Yes, thank you. McTavish was selected third overall by the Ducks and whatnot. So yeah, with those guys and then with the current guys, I think with that group, Anaheim gets out of the basement like that. At number four, the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa is just piling up the prospects. As it is at the current rate, you can go with your Drake Bathersons and your Brady Kachucks and then your Tim Stutzelas and Josh Norrises, and of course your Thomas Shabbats and Artem Zub. But they've also got a few guys that they also have some promising prospects and a couple of players that I wouldn't they have a chance to redeem themselves. Those players being Victor Mete and Matt Murray. Now, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Matt Murray's game, he's got 3 years left on his contract, and I think in those 2 or 3 seasons or whatever, he's got a chance to at least turn his game around and see the success that he had in Pittsburgh. If not, I'm intrigued to see how Philip Gustafsson fared, as he had a pretty good season last season. As it is as well, um, uh, just go back to where is they've got some promising prospects coming up in Tyler Boucher, in Eric Brandstrom on defense, and Jacob Bernard Docker. So, needless to say, with who they have now and who they have coming up, and I just think that Ottawa is bound to get out of the basement. They definitely weren't as bad as they were the previous season. So yeah. At number three, Detroit Red Wings. Detroit Red Wings, good combination of steals for trade and young prospects coming up. As it is, you can go with your Dylan Larkins, your Jacob Veranos, and your Tyler Bertuzzi's. Pius Suter, underrated signing. And then your prospects like Philip Zadina, Joey Veleno, um, uh, Lucas Raymond. Those are three exciting prospects on forward. And then your Moritz Seider and Simon Edvidson on defense. And then you still got Philip Hronek as well on defense. And the addition to Nick Leddy should at least help, with the development of Hronek, Edvinson, and Seider. Should Leddy be given extension? Oh, and also Gustav Lindstrom. I'm sure Leddy could help him out too. Now, I wasn't necessarily the most sold on the Red Wings because everyone said, "Oh, they're going to be great in the future." I wasn't sold at first because I didn't necessarily know what they were doing with their goaltending. But that trade for Alex Nedeljkovic was a steal, absolute steal. While Nedeljkovic did not have a good playoffs for Carolina against Tampa Bay, I think this is definitely a chance for Nedeljkovic to turn things around in Detroit. And if he doesn't, you still got Sebastian Casa, who had a great season with the Edmonton Oil Kings. And while you could say the pick was a bit of a reach, Casa should be a. There must have been a reason why Yzerman chose Casa at 15th overall. All right. At number 2, New York Rangers. New York Rangers, I mean, you've got your. You could go with your Artemi Panarins, Chris Kreider's, and Mika Zibanejad's. The addition of Barclay Goodrow should be pretty good too. I don't necessarily like the ideology of Tom Wilson must die, which is why I feel they brought in Ryan Reeves and Sammy Blais or whatever, so getting tougher. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they took a step backwards. I didn't like the Pavel Buchnevich trade, but Vitaly Kravtsov, Capo, Alexis Lafreniere, promising prospects up on forward. And then you look at the defense, Adam Fox, K'Andre Miller, and then they also have another prospect in, what is it? Braden Schneider. And then I wouldn't count out Jacob Trouba just yet. Jacob Trouba, as the Rangers depth chart gets better, I think Jacob Trouba could go back to that 50-point season that he'd had with the Winnipeg Jets. So, yeah. And then in that with Igor Shesterkin. All this should lead to, New York Rangers maybe even being the powerhouse in the Metropolitan Division. I could see it for sure. And at number 1, the Los Angeles Kings. As it is, Los Angeles acquired a couple of pretty good veterans in Philip Danault and Victor Arvidsson. Anze Kopitar can still provide value or whatever. But you look at, and same with Drew Doughty. But you look at the prospect pool for LA, and that's where it gets scary. Alex Turcotte, Arthur Kaliev, Quinton Byfield. I would say even Jarrett Anderson Dolan. I wouldn't necessarily count him out. But anyways, with those 4, pretty scary prospect pool. I wouldn't necessarily count out Lias Anderson. I'd like to think he needs a bit of an attitude adjustment from time to time. But I wouldn't necessarily count him out. And on defense, Brandt Clark, looking like a very promising prospect there. So yeah, with the additions of Danault and Arvidsson, and then with the prospects coming up for LA, look out. Los Angeles, Kings of the Pacific Division, I could see it. This video is mostly based on opinion and may not have any outcome on how these teams fare in their future. So remember, if I'm wrong, don't belittle me, educate me. Don't feel free to educate me in the comments, okay? Take care, everyone, and follow my Instagram account, Average Joe Hockey Report, and my YouTube channel, Marty Tommy, in parentheses, Average Joe Hockey Report.